¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday. Welcome, everybody. Michael Hathler, Alio, Cosmic Seeking, welcome, everybody. It is indeed Thursday. Luckily for me, I am at the beginning of a long weekend. No work tomorrow. So thank goodness it is basically Friday. I don't know what FMTG is.
Expensive. You know why we're very
What is this?
This is a question.
Isn't Owen Jones? Hold on. Oh, this might be a good video to go over. Welcome. Alright, folks, we have limited time, so I'm going to start getting myself together. Sorry, I had to hop out for a moment. No problem. Alrighty. Alia with the 13 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Alright. We've got a few things to go through. I think we should start with Ben Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro, I'm curious as to who he thinks he's speaking to in terms of explaining how to deal with the cops. But here's Ben Shapiro explaining, based upon his, extensive experience of being rolled up on by the cops because he's walking around as a teenager or he's walking around as a young adult, explaining how you're supposed to be acting.
I'm confused as to why you believe that if basic traffic stops are not done, suddenly the crime rate will go down. It is
Also, just to be clear, this is in context of, or I should say, after the Tyre Nichols murder. Just so we get like kind of like an overview of where this is coming from.
It's worthwhile noting, by the way, Memphis has one of the highest violent crime rates in America. Memphis's Scorpion unit was founded by the current police chief who just disbanded it because of the problem of violent crime in Memphis.
Don't give a shit. By the way, none of this matters in the context of the murder of Tyre Nichols. None of this matters at all. Just to be clear.
In fact, according to Neighborhood Scout, you have a 1 in 12 chance if you live in Memphis of being the victim of either a violent or a property crime. That's how bad crime is in the city of Memphis. And so the solution from this Ivy League professor at Brooklyn Law School, it's an ivory tower person, is that what if the police just don't police anymore? Great solution, guys. It'll work out amazing.
My really strong sentiment is that to decrease violence between law enforcement officials and the public is to decrease the contact and intervention that police have with the public.
Okay, so what he originally said was stop policing. Okay, that just to be clear, just not to take him out of context.
Solution, guys. It'll work out amazing. Law school, violent or a property crime. That's how bad crime is in the city of Memphis. And so the solution from this Ivy League professor at Brooklyn Law School, it's an ivory tower person, is that what if the police just don't police anymore? Great solution, guys.
That's so his quotes exactly. His quotes exactly is, what if the police just don't, it's right there. What if the police just don't police anymore? Keep that in mind. Echo Wrestle Dragon, how's it going? Let's keep the misinformation to a minimum. You told Ben Shapiro that, my friend. Shapiro's I don't think he's a Nazi. He's a piece of shit, though.
It'll work out amazing.
My really strong sentiment is that to decrease violence between law enforcement officials and the public is to decrease the contact and intervention that police have with the public.
So notice how what she said is not what Ben Shapiro just said, just accused her of saying. Decreasing the contact and intervention that police have with the public is not the same as police not policing or doing their jobs. Hold up, Mr. Ivory Tower person. Others can also go to Ivory Tower. Yeah, like, wait, hold on. James just brings up an even a better point as well. Like the audacity that this guy has to be like some Ivory League professor, as he is a quote, as he is a checks note Ivory Tower person himself. Yeah, it's pretty rich. Thank you for pointing that out. He may not be an actual Nazi, but he's an actual fascist. It doesn't really matter. The outcome is the same. the outcome is the same whether or not he believes himself to be or not be some kind of far right fascist or not. The outcome is that he definitely facilitates the pipeline to fascism.
Fewer traffic stops.
Exactly. They don't need to be, police do not need to administer stops in basic traffic violations. I know all of us, I can confidently say,
True.
have engaged in a minor traffic violation.
Yes, and virtually all of us have gotten a traffic ticket at some point. And you know what all of us don't do? Run away from the police officers or fail to obey command.
Again, this is in the context of the Tyre Nichols murder. Okay? 1. The traffic stop that supposedly triggered the supposedly triggered this entire murder that we witnessed was bunk to begin with. So far, unless something else comes out, there is no evidence, no video evidence that we have seen. And the bodies that are currently investigating this have also come out and said there is no evidence so far that we can see for the justification of the, quote, reckless driving. We didn't see it. So first of all, we're already beginning on a bad bad foot here. And then, of course, regardless if that was the case or not, even if it was true, that he, I don't know, whatever, Tyre Nichols could have literally finished murdering somebody and was running away from the police. Doesn't matter. The police's job isn't to kill the people they're trying to apprehend. Yes, exactly, bipedal meatbag. Arrests shouldn't turn into murders. None of that. Yeah, exactly, Cralio. None of that justified what they did. But Ben's job is to perform Olympic levels of mental gymnastics to facilitate and to justify this to his audience.
And not to quote earlier.
And again, he's wrong here too, because Tyre Nichols was given about 70 plus commands, some of which are contradictory. And you could hear it. In the audio. They were giving commands like sit down while he was already sitting down. Things like that as an example.
Early Chris Rock, but you should obey commands from the police. This is a good idea.
No, not always. What if they stopped you unlawfully? And again, it doesn't matter. It still does not justify being murdered.
This is, if you want to avoid a bad interaction with a cop, the best way to avoid a bad interaction with a cop is not to, number one, commit a crime, and number two,
which Tyre Nichols did not
to disobey the police officer when he tells you what to do. Now, again,
it doesn't matter. It should not result in your murder.
That it's not.
Do any of the cops yell shots fired as they usually do? No, what they did was they got in front of one of the cameras, in one of the dash cameras, and they said, as they were all like gathered together, and of course they knew that they were being fucking recorded, that one of them claimed that Tyre Nichols attempted to reach for their gun. Tyre Nichols attempted to reach for their gun. But in no evidence, again, in none of the videos that was released and that we were able to see, that did not happen. Yeah, reach for my gun is ploy number 2. Yeah, and very interestingly enough, no mention of that in the police report as far as we can see.
Excuse police brutality. It does not mean these officers shouldn't go to jail. They violated the law. We talked about this yesterday. But if you want to actually reduce the number of interactions between one population group and the cops, one of the things you're going to need to do is reduce the crime rate among this population group.
No, it doesn't excuse the actions of the police. And if you're interested in solving if you're actually interested in solving crime, then you need to be proposing solutions that would get to the root of the actual problem. What is driving crime? Well, as we know, most of it, and like Ben was talking about, like petty crime, most of it is driven by poverty. If Ben Shapiro is actually interested in solving crime, then he would be pushing for programs to try to alleviate poverty. But he doesn't, because it's not about that. Though added later, you can hear a cop yelling shots fired when an NYPD cop were chasing Amadeo Diallo, who did not even have a gun. Yeah. It's like the standard, because they know even on the radio, even on the radio, in front of dash cams, they know it's being recorded. They know it's being recorded. So of course they're going to say the things that they need to say, because that's what they're taught to do. You know, Ben is a lawyer, a commenter, knows everything, and is a sociologist. True. Well, he is a lawyer. I'll give him that. Yes, cops manufacture evidence all the time. Cops plant evidence all the fucking time. I was telling the story yesterday of somebody that I'm very, very close to. In a stop, in a traffic stop, the fucking cops planted drugs and then wrote it on the report and then told this person that, well, who do you think they're going to believe? You or the official police report? So honestly, fuck them. Don't care.
So they don't have the interactions with the cops.
Oh my God. Pause it for a second. Hold on. I mean, is it first off?
And Jesus Christ, Ben.
It's hard to know what is more horrifically disgusting in this situation in terms of what he's saying. But in terms of like his vast experience, and you listen to what the cops do, in about 30 seconds, you could Google, and maybe you should just do that, about the story about what the tape shows.
Yeah.
In terms of Tyree Nichols, in terms of like the commands that he was being given by the 5 different cops, none of which he could comply with because he was either already complying with those commands.
Right. This is exactly what I was saying. The thing is, if we're being really honest and serious about this discussion, there are legitimate reasons, justifications, and explanations for police forces and instances of confrontation, but this is absolutely not the hill to die on by making that argument. Don't make pro-police arguments in the back of officers clearly breaking the law. Right, because it's not about that. You're exactly correct, James Snapper. It's not about that. It's because, in fact, Ben probably is okay with what happened, and is trying to sort of divert the conversation from police brutality to just comply. Should have been compliant. That's like the number one thing that you need to remember, folks, because I believe in so much freedom. Remember, the Party of Freedom, Ben Shapiro, Republican, conservative, whatever bullshit, is telling you that you have to make sure that you do everything the agents of the state say, or if you lose that game of Simon Says, damn. Ben is just okay with people, specifically people of color, losing their lives in a game in a game of Simon Says.
Show us your hands as they're holding his hands. Get to the ground as he's on the ground.
Right, and this is what I was talking about. He was issued like over 70 commands, and some of which were he was already either complying or contradictory, as I was saying earlier.
Yes, I mean, one of two situations were existing, and there was like literally, I think they documented something like 24, 30 commands that were impossible.
Dozens, yes.
Impossible to follow. So his experience, Ben Shapiro's, of listening to the cops apparently is maybe slightly different from people who have been subjected to far more scrutiny from the cops. We also know that his whole concept of community, of law breaking, attracting more police attention, largely speaking, depending on what era it's been, it's because the police have decided, and society in many respects, white society has decided that we're going to pay more attention to the potential or the actual law breaking of one cohort of the population versus another. Everyone not everyone apparently knows the implications of like the stop and frisk policies that we had in this.
Right. Most contributions and discussions around this topic and others are framed with quite a lot of bias and intent to frame it in a way that is ideologically positive, but for being real, America does have a violence problem, and yeah, it's probably about time they started thinking outside the box with solutions, because the previous attempts have clearly not worked. Yeah, I mean, like, with regards to like the whole policing problem, it's very apparent that the problem here is the culture of the police. The problem here is the police. And doesn't matter how much Olympic levels of mental gymnastics Ben Shapiro and the conservatives need to perform to defend them. At the end of the day, the police have a problem, and it's a cultural problem. It's not just that there's a one or two bad apples or whatever bullshit. Police brutality is what we see at the end. But it's not the root of the problem. But police brutality, the murder of Tyree Nichols is what we see culminating. But at the end of the day, it's much deeper than that. It's much deeper than, police brutality. Hey, Heat, how's it going? Welcome.
Everybody knows that, in a place like Ferguson, traffic violations are used as a funding mechanism for the city or the municipality or the town or wherever it is.
And how about drug crimes? Just because this statistic stands out in my mind, that black and white Americans, it's a little outdated. I think it's from like 2016. They use drugs at similar rates, but black Americans are nearly 3 times more likely to be arrested or charged, or maybe not charged, but at least targeted for arrest for using drugs. So like that is just disproves his entire thesis there.
I mean, and this isn't a case. I mean, this isn't a case of someone who was doing anything of what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But, this is full-on dog whistle stuff.
Certain groups of people he keeps.
Yeah. You can't just realistically have a situation police officers are seen to be more willing to beat up a single citizen than they are to storm a school and protect innocent children. That just fundamentally undermines a kind of decency doctrine that underpins all institutions. You just can't continuously have a complete breakdown of trust between police and the citizens, because then both are hostile to each other, which has lethal ends, as we see now. Yeah, but like, it's kind of like, yeah, 100%, but it's kind of like on the police's, end to fix, right? They're the ones that are causing the problem here, as you pointed out. They are more willing to beat up a singular person. 5 police officers beat to death one person. We saw in the other horrific video where 2 police officers responded with lethal force at someone who was attempting to get away from them. A double amputee who's trying to get away from them. Apparently they felt so threatened that both of them who were there decided that the response was going to be lethal force. It's really on the police's fault, on the police's side to fix. Greetings from Turkey, welcome. It's really on the police's end to fix this.
Saying.
Group and the cops, one of the things you're going to need to do is reduce the crime rate among this population group so they don't have the interactions with the cops. And this is not exactly rocket science.
Well, if you
and
want
yet the solution, apparently, is that we stop the policing, which, of course, results in precisely the opposite of what you seek to achieve. You get fewer interactions with the cops, that's for sure. You do get many more interactions with criminals. This is why you have genius Mehdi Hassan on MSNBC claiming that it's time to abolish the police. Why is it so radical, says Mehdi Hassan, to abolish the police from his security-protected studio over at MSNBC?
Stop it. Security and cops aren't the same thing. I saw these people make it, even like the Capitol Hill police, in my opinion, are not the same as the cop, like NYPD that's sitting on the corner waiting to like bust somebody. And like, the thing is like, we do have like our per capita murder rate is about 3 times higher than the OECD. We do have a lot of violence in this country. But I would ask like Shapiro, like, what do you think is causing the violence among certain communities?
Right. Right. Because the moment you start asking some of these questions, you'll quickly realize Shapiro actually isn't really interested in solving crime at all. The only difference between security and police is who pays them. Yeah, kind of. But I think there's a there's a very important distinction from like armed agents of like the state, right?
Because we have like all sorts of debates over like my entire lifetime. Charles Murray would basically say like, that's inherent biologically, and we're not going to be able to do anything about that. Whereas other people that are more in line with reality and the history of this country is that those groups and certain populations experience more crimes because they don't have a relationship with the police that is conducive to creating order. So like cops, like in many communities, first of all, they don't like solve murders. Like we have a horrible murder clearance rate across this country. What I think like the defund thing, what is purposely missed is people want people like detectives solving crimes in any community. They don't want people like some schmuck with a power trip sitting on the corner policing small things like fare evasion or like the broken window style policing that led America to become the #1 cager of human beings in the entire world. Like not per capita, in terms of raw numbers, we have more human beings in cages because of the approach that is like we just can't
do it. I have a question. Does any of the conservative GOP ever deal with the public, or is it just talking points? No, it's just talking points. Because like they know this is all in the context of, again, this is all in the context of the murder of Tyree Nichols. So they know they have nothing. So they're going to perform Olympic levels of mental gymnastics to divert the conversation. In fact, police are good. We need more police, is what they'll tell you, is what they are telling you.
We act like we've been defunding the police the whole time. No, we've been doing exactly what Shapiro wants to be
But
done.
the security example and the Capitol Police example, like I saw people were giving AOC crap on Twitter
Silly.
because she voted to increase police funding for the Capitol Police. Those are different entities, and they're actually models of what should be happening with policing is protection and like hopefully not overreach. What defund people, what activists are saying is that black communities are being over-policed and they're being violently assaulted because of that over-policing.
And there's absolutely no reason to have a person with a gun and the ability to arrest somebody, approach the car because they have run a stop sign or run a red light or failed to make a left turn signal. There's absolutely no reason to do it.
And in every other sort of aspect of society, they see government encroachment as some type of authoritarian move. The idea that the IRS would audit or fine somebody for not paying their taxes is jackboot stormtroopers coming in. But the idea that you'd have basically a militarized personnel approach your car because you just took a left turn where you weren't supposed to, of course, it's going to make people, jumpy and whatnot. And if
not only that, this is all in the context of that situation, of the murder of Tyre Nichols. He didn't even make, as far as we know, that traffic infraction. That never happened, as far as we know, unless some other evidence comes out. Like, honestly, it should be really simple as, like, oh, person X did a traffic violation. Well, they can take your plates and send you the bill.
Society was aware, criminals and non-criminals alike was aware that the person coming up to issue a ticket did not have the power to arrest them or search their car for other things. There would be far less violent interactions, period, end of story.
I can't imagine any effective violence protection program that doesn't involve some kind of gun control, and we all know how well that goes. Yeah, that's another conversation. With regards to, like, the policing thing, yeah, that's a separate conversation. I'd say that the majority of the need for changes on the police and government side for sure, especially when we're presented with a clear violation of law that are so brazen. Obviously, the other side of it is that, yeah, there's violent crime and endangers innocent people too. For example, like 4 to 5 people shot by police are actually armed, so they are a danger. The number is too big. Numbers too big to just be fraudulent reports. America's indeed rife with firearms, and gun violence is very real. Yeah, no, 100%. I'm not going to dispute that. But a lot of what leads these negative interactions with the police is because of the police. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I mean, if a criminal's being a criminal, then that's on them. That's a criminal, right? But when it comes to, like, police brutality, and negative interactions with the police, and why the police are viewed negatively, it's because of them. It's because of them. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not disputing what you're saying there.
And you would get far less violent interactions. That person coming to the car is just there to give you a ticket. Mm-hmm. In the same way that, like, we don't need to arm parking ticket, meter maids. Because those aren't confrontations that are going to go beyond the fact that there is a ticket being issued.
And say you pull someone over and they have some sort of, like, outstanding warrant for a violent crime, that ticketing officer can refer that person to the police, right? It's just not. I don't even think you need to do that function.
I agree. You don't need to have that function. If people have an outstanding warrant for a violent crime, then the police will have more time to find that person, because they're not out, harassing people who are not engaged in a crime.
They just have this kind of 24 style conception of what policing is.
Because police don't de-escalate things, they only make it worse. A lot of the times, yes, that is the case, and that is definitely a problem.
And I'm just saying, even in those narrow instances, it's not necessary.
The having police serve that function is having them serve the function of control. Period. End of story. That is it. You do not have them come out and use every interaction that they have with the public as a mechanism in which to surveil them, and a mechanism in which to assess them, unless it is about.
I think the fears that some people have around defunding the police is a genuine concern. I think a lot of people interpret it as defunding protection against violence, which, to be honest, if I lived in the U.S., I would be, yeah, of course. That's not the same thing. Of course. Oh man, did the clowns show up early today? What's going on over here? Oh boy. What a rap sheet. If I lived in the US, that would be something to be worried about too. I think there needs to be more clarity in terms of what reform would actually look like and how it would impact ordinary citizens, which is also why it's frustrating for Shapiro to shout down this woman because she's trying to clarify it. Yeah, but Shapiro's not interested in that. Remember, Shapiro's only job here is to perform the Olympic mental gymnastics necessary for the audience. That's it.
About control.
And we're having a
not
freak
just
out.
in that moment, but also the implication that could happen is also about control. It's the same way, like, you know, when DeSantis has these laws that causes school systems to hide all their books because they don't know what happens in that moment. That is what our policing system does. It creates a constant sense of anxiety and fear against a population that knows that they should have some anxiety and fear when the police show up at their car, regardless of what whether they have done anything or not. Like, Ben Shapiro has no ability to even accept or be aware that the dynamic between him and a cop is different because of his skin color.
No, but he knows that. He wants there to be some sort of level of control.
Right. I like that bot. It's pretty useful. Oh yeah, I love Posada bot. Posada bot, OG Prodigy, phenomenal freaking tool. Phenomenal tool. I use also Sari _ bot, as well to kind of like prevent hate raids. Like yesterday, we got like a massive follow raid. It wasn't like a hate raid with like bots with messages in the chat. It was just like a flow of just random follows, which I imagine are bots. And Saribot, yeah, follow bot attack. Yeah, follow botting attack. And Saribot just went in and started banning all those accounts and putting them in the registry. So yeah, I've got both Posada bot and Saribot. Really good stuff. People are afraid if you see tanks and more of these super violent videos of cops beating or shooting anyone, why would not? Yeah, exactly. The point being is that, of course, you know, obviously, people, if you see the defund the police slogan as meaning that there's nobody going to be there to like protect, there's going to be no like way of establishing some kind of like protection, like civil protection or whatnot, yeah, then I could see why you wouldn't support it. But that's not really what defunding the police means. I mean, that's not what it means.
For the cops to act as an occupying force in black communities.
There's a freak out, I think, going on right now with the loss of, like, you see, like, Barry Weiss's Thomas Chatterton William, the Chateau friend, saying, oh, you smell pot everywhere. I feel, and then you also see people like, we need to really crack down on fare evasion, because cops lost, like, Kennedy, what's his name? Kennedy III said that, you know, it used to be when you smelled marijuana in a car, you could search that car.
Right.
And when it became decriminalized, you couldn't do that. Cops hate that because that's what they want to do, is
They want a predicate.
pry into your
They
shit.
want a predicate in which to go in and surveil and control.
Right. And again, if you decriminalize stuff like, you know, if you decriminalize all drugs, going back to the story I was telling earlier, they can't just plant drugs and be like, oh, look what I found. They can't do that if things like drugs are decriminalized. If things like the war on drugs was ended. It takes away their power. At least some of it.
And the fewer of those predicates they have, the less justification they have for that interaction. And
the inverse is true. That's from the perspective of cops. But if cops are frustrated by that, it's a good indication of like, that's what we should be doing to minimize these things. There is no evidence whatsoever that that type of invasive policing reduces crime. This just doesn't exist. Far more evidence that getting lead out of the environment and making for healthier human beings reduces crime.
Yeah. There's evidence that if you give people the tools and resources, and there's less people in poverty, there's going to be less crime. There's going to be less of an environment for crime to thrive. Yeah. If you're actually interested in talking about how we can reduce crime, these are the type of conversations you would be having. Like, okay, well, where can we invest in social programs to see if we can reduce poverty, if we can try to get as many people healthcare as possible? Where can we divert resources and funds for these type of programs that we know as a positive externality? We know that it's going to reduce crime because it's actually attacking the main roots of it. The way I see it, we cannot save any part of the current law enforcement system. It's too corrupt. Anyone that is or has worked in it should be fired and banned from ever working in it, including those who teach it. An entire new system must be built. Well, I agree with going ahead and just kind of attempting to rebuild a new system, one that people can trust, one that breeds trust in the public. I don't think fear comes from police, though. American people fear random people with guns, likely because there's millions of random people with guns. Mass shootings are up, murders are up, and people are legitimately hesitant to take the risk of reducing police presence in the case it results in those trends rising again. Yeah, but police often don't prevent these things. I know it's I know you're saying it's a fear response, but police don't stop these things. Police respond to them. Most of the time, police get there, well, it's already done. And how can... I mean, I know that some people might feel this way, but how about, as you mentioned earlier, the Uvalde situation? How are you expecting the police to save you if these fucking cowards won't even go fully decked out to save children? And didn't go in until after the fact, until dozens of them were already fucking dead, as they can hear the sounds of them screaming. No. I understand the sentiment of people being on edge. I feel that way. But I sure as hell don't really feel one way or the other. It doesn't prevent me from understanding that the police are not there to help me. Yeah, exactly. Yes, police usually respond after the fact. That's correct.
Releasing baseline desperation probably helps too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus. Ben Shapiro is so fucking gross. I totally get that evidence-wise the data might not add up, but what I'm saying is more what people think. Yeah, of course. It doesn't have to make sense. It's just a sentiment thing. It's a field thing. I think if you're going to sell the idea of police reform to people, it has to ease the concern of people. I don't think that saying the police don't stop it is sufficient. Well, yeah, I think it's an important thing to add. It's not so much of tomorrow we're going to Thanos snap and the police, there's just going to be no police whatsoever. It's just damn, shouldn't we be focusing our resources into perhaps like better programs? And like, let's evaluate, you know, I get your sentiment, but like, let's sit down and evaluate that sentiment. Let's sit down and evaluate what police actually do. And, you know, I'm pretty sure we can go from there. At least that's how I would approach it. Up to the point where I can kind of lead them to the idea of like, maybe we should rethink how we do policing. Maybe we should rethink this institution altogether. Not that it won't exist. It's maybe better to focus on what does in fact stop crime. Like, I don't read too much about this, but let's say there's evidence that community-based policing or security actually decreases crime rate. That kind of thing would likely mean, like that's what I'm saying. I'm pretending that like I'm speaking to somebody with that kind of sentiment. I would basically say like, yeah, I understand the sentiment. So why don't we talk about what policing actually is, what they do, what they don't do, and what is the actual root of the problem here? The root of the problem is that, well, we all want to feel safe. Okay? So how do we get there? That kind of thing would likely make more people comfortable with change, positive arguments rather than negative. Yeah, sure. I would say, as I was saying, I would start talking about what actually decreases crime. Social programs, reducing poverty. That has actual evidence behind it. I bet if we could see all what the cops all what really goes on, the cops commit more crime than all mafia type groups combined. I don't know. Who knows? I do know that a lot of this has to do with like a power thing. That I do know. Google 40% of cops for more information. Both arguments will be presented. Like, now I did study criminology and there's many theories presented. What, to reduce crime? Well, I'm sure there's many different ways you can go about it. I'm just saying, like, one of the major drivers, is poverty. Organized crime needs a lot of funding, and a lot of that has to do with the war on drugs. A lot of the time it's them going Cartman, going like Cartman, respect my authority. True. That is exactly how a lot of police act. All right. Let's switch gears. Hold on, folks. I need to respond to something real quick. What starts crime? Poverty, broken family, constantly making violent choices, and then the books cover plans to counter those habits. Yeah, but like, well, poverty is not a habit necessarily. It's a societal problem. Broken family, sometimes that's just the way it is. Sometimes it's driven by poverty. All right. We're going to end this segment. From the bits I know of crime and social deviance, it's quite complicated. It's often to do with dysfunctional between norms, goals, and means of society, which is something a guy called Robert Merton theorized in what he called the strain theory. Essentially, if the goals of a society don't match up with the ways to achieve them, money, then you'll get what he called innovators. People break the norms and mean of society to achieve the same goals. Yeah, I mean, like, but these are all socioeconomic phenomenons that, well, revolve, quite frankly, around poverty. Let's be real, a lot of it is on purpose to keep the people of color and poor people in their place. I mean, yeah, there's an aspect of that. It's like a very complicated solution when viewed from that perspective. The real solution is quite significant. Fundamental change to society, upturning what people value and what people do and how they do it. Yeah, I mean, sure, it's not a one fit all solution. There's no such thing as a silver bullet. I mean, imagine a society with imagine if we reorganized our priorities and had a society that made sure people had food, housing, education, and healthcare. How likely do you think crime will be? Probably not as much. Not that all crime would just disappear with the snap of your fingers, but a lot of it. There's a good chunk to be said for the ripple effects of making sure people have food, housing, education, and healthcare. So to wrap up this segment, I found the reaction. Oh shoot. Here.
As we've discussed many times in the past year on the Ben Shapiro Show, narrative trumps all when it comes to the left wing, and never has.
Narrative trumps all when it comes to the left wing. Ben reacts to the Tyree Nichols tape. Yeah. It's quite unsurprising that a society like America typifies the Merton's theory of strain so well, because it's a country that feigns meritocracy and celebrates indulgence in the extreme. Not all 300 million people can have that, and it's impossible. Yep. Yeah, context matters. No, this is gonna get. You know, I know that like Majority Report only went over like a small segment, it's probably going to get really bad here.
Has this been truer than in the case of Tyree Nichols? Tyree Nichols was a 29-year-old black man who was hospitalized after a confrontation with police during a traffic stop earlier this month. The officers were then fired. This is in Memphis, Tennessee. They were accused of using excessive force in an encounter that was captured on the video. We're going to...
Yes. Yes. And then he died because of that. Once again, the traffic stop was under bullshit circumstances. That's being questioned. There's a reason why they were charged with kidnapping.
Go through the video because it's kind of important to see what exactly was going on. The key fact here, because again, narrative means everything to the left, is that
No. As he's trying to provide his own, as he's trying to spin the narrative himself. Okay, dude.
5 police officers
Yes.
who have now been charged. They were all arrested on charges, including second-degree murder.
Yes, and kidnapping, Ben, because the traffic stop in question is being disputed.
Their names are Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Emmett Martin III, Desmond Mills Jr., and Justin Smith. They were all arrested, and they were all black. And the victim in this particular case was also black.
Okay.
This does not stop the left from claiming that white supremacy is to blame, because white supremacy is the ghost in the machine. It is responsible for literally every...
No, okay, so Ben is doing his best Olympic levels of mental gymnastics. If anything, this kind of makes the argument. This is a textbook example of what systemic racism looks like. Doesn't really matter that the cops were black. Yeah, if they had been white, they would have been suspended with pay, like the guy who originally tased him.
Everything in life, just as to the feminist movement, everything in the world is the patriarchy. To the left, when it comes to race, every single thing is white supremacy, even if it is black police officers who are being...
No, it's because Ben wants to do what effectively is a straw man of what systemic racism actually means and how systemic racism actually works. Essentially, regardless of the individual actors, the system itself, in this case the justice system, continues to produce disproportionate outcomes that are racially biased. That's it.
beating and effectively killing a black man. That is still white supremacy. One of the worst things about politics is that single factor analysis tends to be.
And like, of course, Ben is going to probably spend the next like 10 minutes trying to talk about how the left is talking about like white supremacy or whatever without addressing like very much the, police murder that we saw on fucking video. The people who complain the most about Idpol or use cynical Idpol more than anyone. True. Idpol is identity politics. When else have we ever seen cops arrested this fast? It's not very common, if at all. I mean, it's good that they were arrested immediately, but it's also very telling. As you said. Maybe they acted this quickly because they saw the video and they knew that if they took their sweet time to attempt to, close ranks on the thin blue line, that they would have riots on their hands. So maybe a factor of that is race. Maybe a factor of that is that it was so bad. It was so bad that they had to do this immediately, or else, like, there was about to be a lot of riots.
the most easily available way of approaching politics, and it's also the worst way. People tend to think very simplistically about politics just as they think about other things in their life. And so
my wife got me this weird new kitchen.
Maybe you do.
a hammer in search of a nail, everything looks like a nail. And so if you are a left-winger on race, everything looks like white supremacy. If you're a feminist, everything looks like the patriarchy. If you're a Marxist, everything looks like class warfare. Now, the reality is that...
That's not always how that works. That's a bit of a caricature.
Life is much more complicated than that. That there are a bunch of different forces that play on individuals in our world, and that it's a combination of those forces and the individual decisions made by...
Wait. Is Ben arguing for intersectionality? Ben! Is Ben tacitly admitting that, like, maybe sometimes there are scenarios where a lot of things, intersect? Is that what Ben's trying to argue?
By those individuals that leads to particular action. But when it comes to politics, the easiest thing is to blame some sort of gigantic force and then say that you are fighting that force. And if you fight that force properly, well, then this thing never would have happened.
Well, the problem here, Ben, again, the title of the video is the Tyree Nichols tape. The problem here, Ben, is that the cops fucking murdered somebody on fucking video. Okay? So many, yeah, this guy is, something else.
If you're a Marxist, if you just fight the predations of capitalism, well, then all evil will go away. If you're a feminist and you fight the patriarchy, all evils will go away. You alleviate the generalized condition.
No, I think I think it's a straw man. When it comes to politics for the right, the easiest thing to do is say everything is individual psychology and there's nothing that can be done. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Peterson. Thank you.
And all of the evils go away. Well, as we'll see, this is not the case in Memphis, Tennessee, not by a long shot.
I don't even think that a lot of like leftists think that just capitalism going off the face of the planet, if capitalism just magically got yeeted out tomorrow, that everything would be solved. I don't think that a lot of leftists truly believe that. I think a lot of leftists identify that the current hegemonic system that's predominant across the planet is capitalism. And we ain't doing so great. Maybe. Just spitballing over here. We should take a look at that.
Hey, so what exactly happened in the case of Tyree Nichols? Well,
tell me, Ben.
Now have...
Tell me how in the first like 5 seconds of the video, you were blaming the left for blaming the left, saying that they're only about the narrative. Tell me as you attempt to spin the narrative, Ben.
Video of the traffic stop. Apparently, according to the videos, you can see that Tyree Nichols was pulled over by the cops.
Okay. On a bullshit fucking premise. Okay. Yeah, Ben's answer is just hopefully you win the game of Simon Says.
And they stop their cars in front and in back of him. And then they tell him to get on the ground. And he sits down. He's not sure exactly what is meant by get on the ground. And they tell him they want to lie on the ground. They're yelling orders at him. He's apparently trying kind of half to comply. At a certain...
So wait, you're admitting already that part of the problem here, Ben, which you just admitted, is that they were giving orders that were completely contradictory. So already we're having some issues that you're acknowledging, but you're trying to like speed past that part. What's the matter, Ben?
Point, he just runs away. First point, never run away from the cops. This does not end well. Running from the cops is a stupid thing to do.
Okay, first of all, again, it doesn't fucking matter. it should not result in you being fucking dead, Ben. What a fucking ghoul.
This does not alleviate any of the evils of the police officers who are rightly being charged with aggravated assault and some of them being charged with second-degree murder.
Oh, so okay. That's it. That's the problem, Ben. The police brutality is the problem. If you run away from the cops, it should not result with you being fucking dead. End of story.
But many factors lead up to a situation in which the police do something like this.
What many factors, Ben? A bullshit traffic stop? Losing a game of Simon Says? Attempting to comply with fucking contradictory commands? $71 fucking commands in the 13-minute incident.
Okay, so you can see in the video what exactly happened. There are multiple camera angles. And in this particular case, what you see is that Tyree Nichols is pulled over. One of the questions in this particular case is whether he was pulled over for a good reason or a bad reason, whether they had reasonable suspicion to pull him over.
They didn't, which is why they're being charged with kidnapping. Ben, did you think that they were making up those like kidnapping charges for no reason? No. The reason why they're charging them with kidnapping and I think like oppression of rights or whatever the crime was is because they stopped him without a reason, Ben. That's why they're being charged with those crimes.
Or not, he did not have a prior criminal record. It is not clear why exactly they pulled him over. I'm sure that's going to be the defense's case at trial.
It's because they had no reason. It was bullshit. Has he even admitted they've been charged with kidnapping? No! He conveniently slid past that.
Because one of the things that some of the police officers are being...
And the reason why, just to be clear, why we're even going through any of this bullshit is just to make sure that we get the entire context, okay, after watching the Majority Report. Because best believe that Ben Shapiro probably said way more fucking ghoulish shit than they had time to cover. And it turns out to be the case.
Charged with here is kidnapping, meaning that it was
there we
sort
go.
of arrest under false pretenses. They pulled him over.
Yeah, there we go. All right, jump the gun on that one.
For no apparent reason is sort of the implication here. And so before they actually released the tape, and before we found out all the details, the Memphis
that's what that means, Ben.
police chief actually came out preemptively and said it was worse than Rodney King, which is not something that police chiefs should be saying. The reason they should not be saying this is it sets the stage for riots. What they should say...
No. If it's true, dude, then what do you want them to say? No, it wasn't that bad. And then we see the video and it was actually worse than what the police chief said. So then there are actual riots. What the fuck, Ben?
These police officers have already been arrested. They've already been charged. Most of them will go to jail, undoubtedly. This is how the justice system is supposed to work. Is that when this stuff emerges, people get arrested and they go to jail. Instead, when you start...
Okay, but you just spent a whole 4 minutes trying to say that the left is kind of creating some... What narrative did the left create, Ben? That police officers literally committed murder in front of a fucking camera? And what? That isn't, like, an example of the problems with policing, and then like tacitly admitting that like this is how it should work. But Ben, that isn't how it always works. In fact, it's rarely the case we get to see accountability this quickly. It's actually very rare that this happens, Ben. That's the problem. He's trying to say they must have had a good reason. They're cops, probably.
Ratcheting up the tensions, you are leading the way to something that is going to look very much like street violence, because this is exactly what we saw in Ferguson, Missouri.
So, okay, how it should work includes officers of state brutally murdering someone. I'd argue that's bad. No, he's saying that the swift response of them like being in jail and whatnot is how it should work. But the problem is that that's actually not what happens. It's very rare that we get to see something like where officers get immediately arrested and charged with fucking murder. And the reason why the police chief had to do the things that they did was because it was so fucking bad that they had no other choice. And Ben here is basically saying like, well, why did the police chief say that? Well, if the police chief would have come out and been like, well, you know, tried to like say that it wasn't as bad time. If the police came out to the press and tried to say and tried to downplay it, and then we actually get to see the video, and it was actually a lot worse, then there would have definitely been riots. And quite frankly, even if there were riots, as a result of this, even if there were riots, then yeah, that would be bad. But have the cops tried not fucking murdering people? It would be on them. He really does love the taste of shoe polish, true. How it should work include officers of the state brutally murdering someone, I'd argue that's bad. But the Scorpion unit and the beating is also part of the criminal justice system. True. You know what? Yeah, you're right. I disagree. If they had been white, they would have been trying to protect them. Yeah, I mean, I think that they didn't have really much of a choice. But to your point, as we mentioned earlier, to your point, it's very telling how the guy who initially tased Tyree Nichols, who was white, mysteriously did not get charged with pretty much anything as far as we know, and is currently on suspension only, not even fired. Shapiro's quite a frustrating individual because on one hand, I totally get why someone with an academic and particularly legal background will err on the side of the caution when explaining things or considering things, but he is often throwing in absolutes alongside with it, which doesn't make sense. Well, yeah, no, he's not there to make sense. He's there to spin the narrative as for his audience. Yeah, the video is very bad. Why doesn't the police admit that they have no clue how to deal with the situation and that they need better training to protect the people? It's probably not their fault that they can't provide good training. What? It's not their fault that they can't provide good training? Yeah, then that's a problem with policing itself. Then maybe if that's the case, if they can't provide it's definitely their fault. Then maybe we need to reorganize or rethink the institution of the police. Maybe we got to start over. Maybe we got to start over if that's the case. Clearly it's not working. Maybe they need more money. Maybe they need better organization. No, they already have an overblown budget. That's not the problem. That's not the problem. If they need more money, then what are they doing with it? They get a fuck ton of money. They have a massive budget. What are they doing with it? I've been hearing we need to give them more money for better training since Rodney King. Yeah. The cops are the ones training the new cops. That's part of the problem. Yeah. It's the culture, Russell Alf. It's the culture. It's the entire culture of policing. That's the problem. It's not that they don't have enough money. They have a disproportionate budget. They have a massive budget. They have fucking tanks in some cases. Shapiro Image, I'm blind. It's okay, you only need your ears.
Please clap.
It's exactly what we've seen in the
How's it going, Maple Leaf Dragon?
past with regard to George Floyd. Anyway, here was the Memphis police chief
Oh,
who was
what do you mean? Again, even if there was riots, have the cops tried, I don't know, not killing people? Even if there was riots across the country, it's on the cops. Have they tried not killing people? A good way to avoid making the public angry is not killing people. My brother's department has an M1, tank, like a literal M1. The fuck do they need that for? Jesus Christ. The police are responsible for their training programs, so the responsibility ultimately falls on them. The problem is less so much money, but more about time. Time spent training. Yeah, but what kind of training? Like the entire culture of the police is toxic. Right, you know, like nonsense equipment, like a fucking M1 tank that they don't really need. If you need an M1 tank, if you need an M1 tank, you probably should just call the National Guard. If you're in a situation where you need an M1 tank, you should probably just call the fucking National Guard, not the police. I've known firefighters who get PTSD and nightmare. Well, yeah, they deserve benefits, yes. I'm not from the US. How long does it take to train the average police officer? Nothing. It literally takes them so little time in comparison to other places in the world. Policing in the European states is about 10 times as significant as the US equivalent, so they clearly don't get enough time to really take in the scope of their job. Yeah, the police turnout is very, very short. The police academy is very short here. And again, it's not just that it's a short academy. It's the culture that gets promoted in there, okay? I mean, cops all the time, and I know cops, they're told that their only job is to come home to every night. No. Your job is to protect and serve.
talking up the evils of the incident.
It has been said that it is reminiscent, perhaps worse than the Rodney King video. Is that your assessment?
That's my assessment.
Well, she was asked this question, and she answered it honestly. She was asked this question. The police chief was asked this question, and she answered it honestly. If she would have said, like, well, I don't know, like, let's wait for the video, like, and tried to downplay it, and then people saw what happened, then there would have been riots. In Germany, you need to study at the police academy. It takes about 4 years. Yeah, no, none of this is a thing here. So just try not to, like, if you're not from here, like, understand that we have a unique problem with the police here, with policing here. So yeah, the scope of the problem here is pretty deep.
I was in law enforcement during the Rodney King.
Yeah, once they're in the job, they're out for long hours. Every day is hostile. Every week is stressful. The first thing I'd be doing is doubling the time to train as an officer and building a rotating system where officers spend 2 weeks on beat, 1 week on community service. Yeah, not only that, like, not every day is fucking hostile, especially if you're on the beat. They don't actually do much when they're out. A lot of time they're just eating and shooting the shit. Yeah.
Incident, and it's very much aligned with that same type of behavior.
And the same cop here that Ben is trying to be like, well, I don't know why she did that. She was fucking there, dude.
That it's worse?
Sort of groupthink. I would say it's about the same, if not worse.
Okay, so I don't know, number one, why the Memphis police chief is doing interviews with Don Lemon, who obviously is a motivated political actor, as opposed to, for example, just doing a presser, releasing the tape, saying that we are doing our best to lock down the violation of law. That is...
Okay, but if she would have just said that, she was asked a question, and she answered it, and then for further context, she elaborated that she was there. She was in law enforcement when the Rodney King beating happened. For further context. And then Ben continues to be like, well, I don't know about Don. Shut the fuck up, Ben. If that's true, then it would only mean that the easy way to build in the root system, and it would give them something to do. True, I absolutely get that. Don't get me wrong. I like many things about the U.S., but why is it so hard for your government to admit that certain things work way better in other countries, and why don't you just copy? Yeah, well, I don't know, what exactly do you like about the U.S. that isn't in Germany?
Is what a normal police chief would do. That is not what happened here. So what exactly happened? We're going to go through the timeline.
So what? You expect the police chief to be like, yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it, and then the video comes out, and then what? People are gonna get fucking outraged. At least we had a realistic expectation as to what the public was about to watch. At least the police chief gave a realistic expectation to the public about what we were going to watch that Friday. So yeah, get fucked, Ben Shapiro, because it's socio-psychological. It would require American collectively to accept that the country is not the greatest country in the world. Whoa! Anyways. In fact, other nations do some things better that's seemingly impossible to achieve. True. Another kind of training my cop brother has to do on the regular is reasserting his sharpshooter. Yeah, of course, the important stuff. Not ethics or anything like that. Because, gotta make sure, you hit the target.
So 8:24 p.m., this according to NBC News, officers conducted a traffic stop and they apprehended Nichols. They shouted, "Get out of the effing car." And Nichols said, "I didn't do anything," which do anything. PM, this according to NBC News. Officers conducted a traffic stop and they apprehended Nichols. They shouted, "Get out of the effing car." And Nichols said, "I didn't do anything," which of course is not the proper response to the police when they start yelling at you.
But you didn't do anything. Why would you stop somebody if they didn't do anything? Again, like what Ben wants is compliance. What Ben wants is you to comply. People being genuinely friendly and don't complain much about stuff. Oh man. Oh. Bless your heart. According to Ben, the problem is the way Tyree acted, not how the police acted. Yes, exactly. Exactly correct. And that's the fucking infuriating part about this whole thing.
The proper response to the police is you try your best to comply. Now, this does not always result in the proper result. You remember that there was a case a while
So then there's a problem with fucking policing, Ben.
back in which it was in a hotel room, and there was a suspicion that somebody had a gun in a hotel room, and the police were actually ordering, in this case, a white victim to get on the floor, and he was trying his best to comply. They're giving all sorts of conflicting orders, and they shot him to death, right? So,
yeah, what happened here, Ben? They gave him 71 commands during a 13-minute period in which a whole bunch of them, dozens, started to conflict, or he was already complying, like get on the ground, but he was already on the ground. Give me your hands, but he was already handcuffed.
At the very least, you try to comply. You don't start off with, I didn't do anything.
Well, if you were stopped by some bullshit-ass reason, yeah, your first initial instinct might be like, well, I didn't do anything. Like, why am I being stopped?
So a scuffle ensued. An officer yells, get the F on the ground. And Nichols says, all right, I'm on the ground.
So, again, if he's already on the ground, Ben, what the fuck?
And what they actually meant by that is we want you to lie on the ground.
That's Those are different words, Ben. Compliance is not even enough sometimes because police are very often shouting conflicting orders. Yeah. Like I was trying to point out, like, fucking at least 71 commands. I live in Fairfax, Virginia for almost a year, so most of my opinions from the U.S. comes from a very educated, democratic, rich bubble. Well, I mean, then I don't know what to tell you, because one city, one town, or one city is not the U.S. guaranteed. You spend a year in, I don't know, South Florida, and you tell me if people there are genuinely friendly and don't complain about everything. Okay, you live in a year in South Florida, and then you come back to me. Does Ben know hostility and confrontation? Ben can theorize whatever he wants. The police brutality kills people. Yeah, but that's not what he's interested in selling. You're correct, Alio, but that's not what he's interested in selling. Like Simulacra pointed out, what Ben is trying to do here by performing Olympic levels of mental gymnastics is that the problem here is the way Tyree Nichols reacted, not the police. That's the idea Ben is selling you so far. I'll tell you in a year. Oh, you're moving to Miami? Well, let us know if you think the people there are friendly.
Police said they stopped him for reckless driving. The Memphis police chief, that was Sarah Lynn C.J. Davis, she said early Friday morning that they found no proof of that, which, again, we'll see whether that is true. Or
Ben? The chief of police is literally saying she has not seen any evidence for the reason to stop, for the reckless driving accusation that they tried to finagle. The chief of police is saying that, Ben. The video footage is saying that, Ben. True, but she's black. Gotcha. Thank you, Ben. I see. Thank you. It's all coming together now, folks. Hello, Green Man calling. 46-minute account. That probably won't last very long here.
Or not. Nichols says, you guys are really doing a lot right now. I'm just trying to go home. Okay, by 8:25, he is pepper sprayed. And then he attempts to leave. And by leave, I mean run away. And you can see this in the tape. So we're going to go through the tape right now. You can see that he's on the ground. They pepper spray him, and then he's going to get up and he's going to run away.
Okay. Whoa.
you guys are really doing
They keep yelling at him to put his hands behind his back. He's not complying. He's not putting his hands behind his back.
I am on the ground. Put your hand on your stomach. I got it. Spray. Okay. Get the fuck back up. I'm not doing it.
And then somehow he gets up and he takes off. Okay, now that is not complying with the officer's orders, and that is not a smart move. Okay, then they hit him with the taser.
Oh yeah, dude. All of this is totally. This could have been avoided if Tyree Nichols won his game of Simon Says. What a fucking piece of shit.
He keeps running, right? And he leaves. Backup comes. Two more police cars arrive at the intersection where Nichols was initially stopped. This again, according to NBC News. An officer can be heard on the radio saying they've spotted Nichols running on foot. Now, again, if they have an impression that he was apprehended for a good reason, or that he's going to go commit another crime or something.
Ben, they didn't apprehend him because they were trying to stop a crime, or he was in the suspicion of a crime. They stopped him for reckless driving on a bullshit premise. They didn't stop him because they got a call of like a breaking and entering. They didn't stop him because they got a call of like, I don't know, some assault or whatever the fuck. They stopped him because they wanted to on a bullshit fucking reason.
They're allowed to pursue him on foot. So
should the young deer comply with the hungry wolf pack surrounding it? Yeah, sure. That's what Ben wants.
At this point, nothing untoward has happened. At 8:32 p.m., they re-apprehend him. And then they spray him with pepper spray a bunch of times. Two officers are then on top of Nichols. He is lying on the pavement. And they keep shouting to him to give him their hands, and he won't give him his hands.
Because he's in handcuffs.
So you can see that in the tape as well. And he starts screaming for his mom repeatedly.
Because he was running to his mom's house. Because he was scared. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't speak Russian. Yeah. Anyways.
Apparently, the police caught up with Nichols in a neighborhood that was about 200 feet from his mom's home. And finally, he seems to appear to move his hands to his back, and then they...
Yeah. He was running because he was scared. He was going to his mom's house, Ben. You fucking ghoul.
Continue to pepper spray him, and this is where things are going to start getting out of control pretty quickly here.
No, Ben. They were out of control beforehand. But way to downplay it. You fucking piece of shit.
So you can see in the tape, they apprehend him. He's on the ground. They're pepper spraying him.
Get sprayed again. Hey, Mike. Hey, bro. Watch out.
Okay, here's where things start to get wild, right? So they're starting to kick him. They're shouting for mom.
Okay, all right.
They're telling him to give the hands. He's not giving the hands.
All right.
What I want to know is, like, how Ben sleeps at night. Like, what I want to know is how Ben hears. Ben has kids. What I want to know, or I'm pretty sure he has kids. What I want to know is how he fucking sleeps at night, listening to that. Listening to that and being like, yeah, you know what? He should have won his game of Simon Says. things would have been different. Fuck you. What a fucking ghoul, dude.
How many times do they have to? I mean, again, they're telling you over and over and over, giving the hand.
On a bet of money? Yeah, I guess.
Hands. He's not giving the hands. He's already run away once. But again, officers are trained to respond to these sorts of situations, and here's where things are going to get out of control.
No, they're not. Clearly, Ben, because he's fucking dead.
Okay, so you can see in this case, he's still not complying. There's a street.
I don't even know if I could really finish this. This is making me angrier and angrier. The more this goes on. Yeah, well, there he is, not complying again after he was beaten after he had the shit beat out of him. After he did absolutely nothing wrong. And then have the audacity, after you can hear the screams of him screaming for his mother, you have the audacity to just kind of nonchalantly be like, damn, dude, you should have just won your game of Simon Says. Go fuck yourself, dude. Honestly. Whatever. I think we've heard enough. It's starting to trigger rage. Oh yeah, 100%. What a piece of shit. What a piece of shit. I mean, I think the point was made. I think we all gathered what we needed to gather from that. And just how fucking ghoulish the right wing is. And like to have the audacity to fucking put in your fucking description what the legacy media won't tell you. That was part of his description in the video. Unbelievable. All right. So I'm going to try to get as much of this here. Yeah, or a cat? Alright, I'll bring in a cat. If it ever happens to me, then that's different. Yeah, it's not a problem until it's my problem. Yeah, it's a common mentality with Republicans. Yeah, I'll bring in the cat. I'll bring in the cat before we go. I never claimed that I know that. I'm wondering how that is so important for a democracy fails so hard in the U.S. Well, it works pretty good in many other Western countries. Is this wanted by people in power, or just a symptom of bad organization? I mean, yeah, having the plutocracy or oligopoly doesn't really help. It doesn't really help facilitate democratic systems, yeah? New York investors are snapping up Colorado River water rights and betting on a big increase of scarce resource. Because... you know, capitalism. Because naturally, the correct response to an obvious problem is to find out how you can benefit from it. I need about 2 hours of IMAX video of pristine nature scenes with the light jazz after that. Dude, I mean, it's honestly, fam. I mean, that was whoo. Oh man, it gets worse before it gets worse. With the federal government poised to force the western states to change how they manage the alarming shortfall in the Colorado River water, there is one constituency with a growing interest in the river's fate. There's little known to some, the Wall Street investors. Ah, yes, you know, because that's what we need to be thinking about, of course. Something that 400% of the water is already spoken for. Gross. Private investment firms are showing a growing interest in an increasingly scarce natural resource in the American West, fucking water. And it turns out, and this is true, it's something that we kind of need to live. Water in the Colorado River, a joint investigation by CBS News and the Weather Channel has found. For some of the farmers and cities that depend on the river as a lifeline, that interest is concerning. Our only water source is the Colorado, says Joe Bernal, who raises cattle and grows crops on the land of Colorado's Grand Valley, relying on water from the drought-depleted Colorado River. It's all we've got is the river. Bernal's family came to the Grand Valley nearly 100 years ago, and he's lived there his whole life. Building suburbs in the desert isn't the best idea. Yep. The sad part is that I could not show the video. Yeah, ADT could not show the video because he would be banned by Twitch and YouTube. Yeah. Well, no, Ben Shapiro was showing the video, but I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that it would get, at the very least, it would get, possible suspension. Who knows? Maybe Ben Shapiro gets a pass. I don't know. It's a good point. But now he has a new neighbor, the New York-based investment firm called Water Asset Management, which he says bought a farm in the valley in 2017 that Bernal now rents and helps operate. According to the public records, the hedge fund, which is headquartered in Madison Avenue in Manhattan, has bought at least $20 million worth of land in western Colorado in the last 5 years, making it one of the largest landowners in the Grand Valley. The hedge fund, founded in 2005, says it invests exclusively in assets and companies that ensure water supply and quality. That's a red flag. That's a problem. Why is this okay? In 2021, its co-founder and president Matthew Desario called water in the United States a $1 trillion market opportunity. Oh man, if that's not a dystopic statement, if that isn't the most damning fucking statement on capitalism. If that isn't the most damning statement in capitalism. 2 years ago, this fucking ghoul said water in the United States is a $1 trillion market opportunity. Or organs from prisoners. SV Harkin. Bernal says that when he first heard of the firm, he was concerned. Why would I have invited them here? No. Am I glad there's a big company here buying properties in our valley under our system? Not really. Under our system? You mean capitalism? They've been saying that for decades. Markets recently started trading in freshwater futures. That's right. We covered that story. You're right. You're right. The commodification, essentially betting on the scarcity or not scarcity of water. Cool. Good stuff, huh? Andy Mueller, general manager of the Colorado River Water Conservation District, says he doesn't think the firm wants much with the land. It's the water. There are folks that have identified the drought as an opportunity to make money. Mueller's job is to protect Colorado's share of the river, which flows through 7 states, and is an important water source for cities including Denver, Salt Lake City, Albuquerque, and Los Angeles. He said Water Asset Management has acquired more than 2,500 acres of farmland and is interested in the water rights that come with it. I view these droughts profiteers as vultures. Well, yeah. They're looking to make a lot of money off this public resource. Water in Colorado, water in the West is your future. Without water, you have no future. And also, it's fucking water. Water Asset Management declined requests from CBS News for an interview. Why? 3 years ago, in an interview with the FinTech TV, the company's president, DeSerio, said one of the firm's strategies is to profit from water, in part by making the farms it buys more efficient and then selling parts of its water rights to other farmers and cities increasingly desperate for the natural resource. What a fucking ghoul. Water Asset Management hired Colorado's top water official as one of its lawyers. The company's website states scarce clean water is a resource defining the century, much like plentiful oil defined the last. Holy shit. Oh, man. Jesus. That isn't enough to make you scream. Yeah, headed towards Tank Girl future. Yep. Whew. Clean water is growing increasingly scarce due to a number of factors. The Colorado River relies mostly on snowpack in the Rocky Mountains that feed into the river as it melts in spring and summer. Says Greg Postel, a storm specialist at the Weather Channel, but climate change is making the West hotter and drier. For every degree the temperature has gone up, the flow of the river has dropped about 5%, to a nearly 20% reduction over the past century. On top of that, there's been a 23-year-old mega drought, the worst in 1,200 years. That's in addition to overuse by the western states. It's taken a major toll on the nation's largest reservoirs. Postel said Lake Powell, Lake Mead, they're at historic lows. They're just at 25% their full combined capacity. These are real fears that this crucial water supply for the West is on the brink of a disaster. People across the region are concerned, including ranchers that high in the Colorado Rockies like Carrie Donovan, a former Colorado senator. She is alarmed by the amount of land being bought by investors for water rights. That shouldn't be a thing. Sorry, that should not be a thing. Donovan tried to make Colorado anti-speculation laws stronger, but that effort has failed. She's offered a theory on how investors could profit from water rights in the state. They'll probably make money because the state will be forced to create a system that doesn't exist right now to allow more flexibility in how a water right is used. Right. Essentially, it's kind of like, healthcare, right? You don't really have a fucking choice. I mean, what are you gonna do? Not have water? They know that it's inelastic. It's not optional. Having water is not an option. It's a necessity. What blows my mind, if it could be blown, is that the water collection for your own property is illegal in way more places than you might think. Oh yeah, like there are areas where if you get caught with that, you'll get fined. You'll get fined, and in some areas it's a little bit harsher. In some areas you can. You really have to check. But these speculators, these Wall Street speculators, can come in and buy the water rights essentially in a scheme to lay the groundwork for them being the access to the precious resource, which again is not an option. You can't not have water. Yeah, like if that isn't the most damning statement like of capitalism, I mean, I don't know. I can understand it actually, but then I don't believe in. But then I don't believe in land ownership. Yeah, I mean this is way out of pocket. Something like water is not an option. That shouldn't be a private thing, if that makes sense. They'll probably make money because the state will be forced to create a system that doesn't exist now, right now to allow more flexibility in how a water right is used. As the arid West gets more desperate, the federal government is expected to make sure that taps keep flowing in cities, including Denver, Las Vegas. Yeah, I mean, they could just, they nationalize it, nationalize all that. Fuck them. I don't care. Congress recently allocated $4 billion in drought funding that can be used to pay farmers to follow their land and not use their water. Some western states, including Colorado, are also considering paying some farmers to keep their lands fallow. As for Berdow, his fate is now tied to, at least in part, to the water asset management and his new landlords of New York. Jesus. They've invested in the properties with new irrigation systems. So far, so good. Good stewards of the land and stewards of water rights will have their eyes open. We'll be watching for what may be coming. The water wars, basically. They will give it to the rich neighborhoods and others will be rationed. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it goes, right? If you've got the almighty dollar, then you'll be fine. If you don't, good luck! All right. This is kind of just to like piggyback off this. The Biden administration takes another step in advancing a controversial oil drilling project. I think this one we can kind of get the idea. The ConocoPhillips proposed Willow drilling plan is a massive decade-long project that the state's bipartisan congressional delegation say will create much-needed jobs for Alaskans and boost domestic production in the U.S. Of course, the problem being here is we need to stop fucking with fossil fuels. Full stop. Period. And Joe Brandon, or at least his administration, along with both Republicans and Democrats, are perpetuating and continuing the allowance of this to survive, of fossil fuels to survive. Instead of telling them to get fucked and reroute those resources in attempts to propagate as much renewable sources as possible, trying to get us off of fossil fuel as quickly as possible in as many ways as possible, here we have one step closer to approving yet another fossil fuel plan. All for the sake of ConocoPhillips. That's the only party here that's going to benefit. Environmental groups fear the impact of the planet-warming carbon pollution from hundreds of millions of barrels of oil that it would produce. Of course, and if something like this is put online, it's going to be online for quite a while. It's going to lock in years and years and years of fossil fuel perpetuation when we don't need to be moving in this direction. We need to be doing the exact opposite. I want to know when Biden will keep his word about cannabis instead of pressuring housing and urban development to evict those of us who use it medically. Don't hold your breath. Much needed jobs, yeah. Much needed jobs so that ConocoPhillips will profit. Put that on my tombstone. Will do. I'm now under the constant threat of eviction because I submitted a copy of my medical cannabis card and they asked me, as they asked me to over a year ago. That's some bullshit. The Bureau of Land Management recommends a slightly smaller version of ConocoPhillips, originally proposed, putting the number of jail sites at 3 instead of 5. The Department of Interior is also recommending other measures to try to lower pollution to the project and recommending small footprint of gravel roads and pipelines. The problem is, it's not possible because by definition, you're already locking in these emissions. It is a waste of taxpayer money. It is a waste of resources. Thanks, Joe Brandon. Because I have that on file under the new. That's some bullshit, Graylio. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, they'll do whatever they want and pay any fine later. It's the cost of doing business. Surprise, surprise. Girl boss F the poor cinema pulls in cash from Wall Street as she tries to prop up her re-election bid. I was going to try to go over this one, but I mean, it's Kirsten Sinema. I think we know. I think we're going to have to cover this one. Well, we'll do this one pretty fast. A Northern California judge ruled that there's enough evidence for PG&E to go to trial for several charges related to the 2020 Zog fire, including the deaths of 4 people. This is a welcomed outcome. According to the Shasta County District Attorney Office, Shasta County Judge said PG&E can be held to answer on the 11 counts, 7 of them being a felonies and 4 other misdemeanor counts, along with all related enhancements. The felony charge including 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, causing a fire that caused great bodily injury, recklessly causing a fire, and arson during a state of emergency. Yeah, cool. I just wish this was more common. The fact that it is news, it's because it's uncommon. At the same time, 10 misdemeanor charges, including pollution, nice, negligent emissions of air contaminants, reckless emission of air pollution, were dropped. The Zog fire had burned 88 square miles of land. PG&E in June pleaded not guilty to 4 charges of involuntary manslaughter after prosecutors claimed the utility equipment sparked a deadly fire that destroyed 204 homes in Shasta County. So we'll see what ends up happening with this. All right. So I guess we'll kind of just move through this one. Trump denounced over call for supporters to get locked and loaded. So Trump retweeted or retruthed the fire wasn't pollution. I think we had an orange glowing sky for here for yeah, I know. Yeah. Donald Trump has come under fire for amplifying a call to his supporters to get locked and loaded in a physical fight for Republican Party's frontrunner for the 2024 presidential election. Quote, then they will have to figure out how to fight 80 million, and it's not going to happen again. Me and my people my age and old will physically fight for him this time, a Truth Social post from Free Texas 1776 read, what do we have to lose? I'll donate the rest of my time here on this planet to do it, and I know many others who feel the same. They got my 6 and we are locked and loaded. Of course, Trump retruthed this to his massive platform. Yeah. just another case of, casual stochastic terrorism that continues to be ignored. There's absolutely no accountability whatsoever. This is the retruth over here. Two days after saying he believes Putin more than the U.S. intel community, the current Republican frontrunner reposts a message encouraging people to be locked and loaded and to physically fight for him this time. So just be aware that in the 2024 election, this guy most likely is going to win the primary. But most likely, if he does end up winning the primary, he's not going to win the general election. And these people are telegraphing what's going to happen. They're preparing and are more and more willing to post in a very public way that should the outcome of the 2024 election not go their way, that they are more than comfortable with using violence. Yeah, I think Trump will win the primary. I think Trump will win the primary. DeSantis could try to primary him, but I don't think he'll win. I do not think he'll win that one. Yeah, Biden could definitely do more with that. The U.S. definitely needs to get over the whole cannabis thing. Yeah, but, war on drugs and whatnot. Alright, folks. I think that is all the time I have today. I wanted to finish this video, but I don't think I have enough time for that. We'll do this video coming Monday. I'll go bring the cat to say goodbye. Yeah, Nikki Haley is the only other person to declare and officially declare, and she's got no shot. So I mean, if DeSantis decides to run, he's the only one that kind of has any chance, but it's not enough. I don't think he'll win. I don't think he'll win. There was a moment where the wins were behind him, but I don't think that he will. Alright, let me go bring the cat to say goodbye to everybody. In the meantime, if you guys enjoyed the content and you haven't hit the follow button, he's going to wait till Trump dies and take over. In the meantime, if you guys want to support the channel and haven't already followed, hit the follow button and go on to the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. It really does help us out. A lot of you have been doing that. We got up to 214 subscribers, which is awesome. So, yeah, if you have a second, I'll go bring the cat. Just take a second, subscribe, do the thing, Trump is failing and the speeches are worse. Yeah, but he still has the base. At least enough to carry him through the primary. That's the issue. He's got enough of the base to carry him through the primary. That being said, I don't think he's going to win the general election. I'm saying that he's going to win the primary. He's got about 30 to 40 that are diehards. Yep, exactly. All right, folks. I've got Buddy the cat with me. Makita the cat is unfortunately sleeping, and she's in her little cat teepee, so she's not gonna come out. So we've got Buddy the cat, and he's absolutely the chillest of chillest cats. So he'll be the one to say goodbye to everybody. Yeah, Bakita is in the other room. All right, folks. I've got to get going. Oh yeah, it's super soft. All right, folks. Say goodbye, Buddy. His fur is super soft. Can confirm. Alright, folks. Yes, Kitty Boy. Once again, thank you all for the support. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the biddies. Thank you for the subscriptions. You guys are what makes this channel grow. I appreciate it. Don't forget, we're here Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Oh yeah, today was a little bit tough, but you know, that's how it be sometimes, unfortunately. All right, folks. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. Love those emotes. Alright, folks. We're heading out. Thank you, Michael Hassler. I appreciate it. Thank you, Heat. I appreciate it. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.